Hello and welcome to the latest webinar from 9 St John Street Employment Insights. Can I ask you please to just take a few moments to read the terms and conditions that I'm now bringing up onto the screen. Hello, my name is Jennie Ferrario and I am a barrister at 9 St John Street Chambers, and today I am continuing with the COVID-19 short webinars that 9 St John Street have been presenting to you over the last few weeks. And we've had many questions coming in to our Employment Insights mailbox from members of the public and solicitors. And our employment team has been busy answering those questions either by email or by producing short webinars such as these. Today I'm going to be answering one question that has been sent in, namely this: can I be dismissed if I will not return to work, part-time or full-time, because I think my workplace is unsafe? The answer to this question is yes. You can be sacked for refusing to go back to your workplace. However, if you are refusing to do so because you think that there is a serious and imminent threat to you in returning to work, which can't reasonably be controlled, you will potentially be able to successfully take your employer to an employment tribunal for unfair dismissal. This would be no ordinary unfair dismissal case. Why? Because where you fear for your safety, to be dismissed for not returning to work is called an automatic unfair dismissal. The law says you can't be dismissed for this reason, and it doesn't matter how long you've worked for your employer. You might be aware that to be eligible for an ordinary unfair dismissal claim, the law requires you to have been in continuous employment with the same employer for at least 2 years, but that's not the case with automatic. These videos are designed to be brief, so I'm not going to have the opportunity today to take you through all of the criteria that apply for this type of dismissal, but you can contact us at Chambers if you require specific advice. Today I'm going to concentrate on two issues. Is it reasonable for you to have a belief that it's unsafe for you to return to work? And second, what should an employer do to try and avoid you feeling this way? I'm going to start with the second issue because there is inevitably an overlap. As an employer, if you employ more than 5 people or all 5 people, then the law says that you should have a health and safety policy and it should be available to your staff. Whether or not a business employs people or they are contracted to you on a self-employed basis is a whole issue of its own. And as a business owner, you might wish to take legal advice on whether or not the people that work with you are actually employed or self-employed, because of course if they're employed, they are going to be entitled to additional employment rights and benefits. So let's go back to the employer's obligation in light of COVID-19. On the 11th of May, so a couple of days ago, the government produced guidance on their website, gov.uk, entitled Working Safely During the Coronavirus. It covers 8 workplace settings and includes those that are not yet open but are hoping to from the 1st of June, including shops that do not sell essentials or food. And the guidance sets out 5 key points for employers. Firstly, enable, if you can, your staff to work from home. The guidance says that employers should take all reasonable steps to ensure that staff can work from home. It's going to become more popular, especially with so many successes with people working from home during lockdown. A friend of mine has been trying for the last 2 years to work from home to avoid the terrible traffic that she faces into the office and home again. And having submitted her remote working applications to her employer, the response was always the same: no, we need you in the office. 3 weeks into lockdown, working full-time from home, not only is her line manager emailing her to say how well she's doing, but actually she's been told that she's exceeded usual targets. So it's going to be very interesting for her, and no doubt many others, to see how employers react when staff say that they would rather work from home. The second point is that the government urges all employers to carry out a risk assessment. They're calling it a COVID-19 risk assessment for any staff who don't want to work from home or need to come into the office. Those businesses with over 50 employees, the government expect you to publish your safety guidelines for all staff to see. Thirdly, employers should carry out and redesign their workplaces to enable staff to maintain 2 meters distance. So, for example, in an office or in a factory, an employer could set up a one-way walk-through, as they have in many of the supermarkets, certainly ones that I've been going to. That's what they are operating. Fourthly, where staff can't be socially distanced at 2 meters apart, then employers are expected to put systems in place, for example, having barriers against desks, ensuring that colleagues are facing away from each other rather than looking at each other as they normally do. And finally, the government is reinforcing cleaning processes. Workplace should be cleaned more frequently, and hand washing or sanitizer should be available at entry and exit points. It's wise for employers to follow the government guidance, which essentially says, download the notice that's on the website gov.uk and display it in your workplace to show anyone who enters the premises that you have followed the guidance. This guidance is based upon health and safety law, as we would expect. Legislation governing health and safety at work will expect employers in this COVID-19 situation to appoint staff to set up and implement a safe system. For small businesses, this may mean owners have to do it. And safe will most likely mean maintaining high levels of cleanliness in the workplace, proper ventilation, sufficient space and systems to socially distance, wearing protective personal equipment where you can't, and the carrying out, very importantly, of a risk assessment for each individual member of staff. At Chambers, we can help you as an employer to prepare a checklist for your risk assessment, or you can have a look at the guide provided by the Health and Safety Executive on their website. But ultimately, it's going to be about identifying risks of exposure to the virus for your employees, contractors or visitors, and putting measures in place to try and reduce or avoid those risks. So going back to the issues that I mentioned earlier, let's say that your employer has followed government guidance and has spoken to you about the potential risks and how they intend to try and manage them. You are returning to work after being furloughed or following a period of working from home because you need to be back in the workplace for whatever reason. In some people's cases, I have no doubt it will be to avoid continuing with homeschooling their children. So you're due to return to work in a few days, but you've told your boss that you won't be going into work because you don't consider it to be safe. Ultimately, down the line, you are dismissed for gross misconduct and you find yourself issuing a claim for automatic unfair dismissal in your local employment tribunal. The onus will be upon you to satisfy the tribunal that you had a reasonable belief at the time that your health or the health of someone that you live with was in serious and imminent danger. It's irrelevant as to whether there was in fact any such danger. All that matters is whether your belief was reasonable. So whether or not it was reasonable will depend upon a whole host of factors. And this is where the employer, having complied with legislation and guidance, kicks in. Have they complied? Have they tried? Have they cut corners? Did they speak to you about your concerns? Do they know that you have a member of your family at home with severe chest problems? That's where communication is key. Interestingly, for those of you that have contracted the virus and you were hospitalised and thankfully recovered, it's likely that you will be regarded as having a disability in accordance with the law. The definition of disability, in very basic terms, is that you suffer from a physical or mental impairment that lasts at least 12 months and has an adverse effect on your day-to-day ability to carry out basic activities. At the moment, current science tells us that the impact of the virus is likely to linger and have an impact beyond 12 months. So if this applies to you, your employer must be careful not to treat you less favourably than others due to your disability, because if they do, that will amount most likely to discrimination. I encourage those of you who are employed or employ in construction businesses, factories, warehouses, laboratories or other research facilities, offices, call centres, those of you working in other people's homes, takeaway restaurants, non-food shops and in vehicles, for example, lorry drivers. I encourage all of you to take a few minutes to read the guidance issued 2 days ago for your specific workplace on gov.uk. It will focus your minds on trying to stay safe. If there's one message that I took from the guidance, it's this. Employers and employees should communicate like never before. If you value your job and if you value your staff, talk the issues through together, because if you don't, you might find yourself having to instruct a barrister such as myself to represent your interests in a tribunal hearing, probably 12 or 18 months down the line. I'm going to leave you with a thought that I picked up on today when I read the Health and Safety Executive guidance on their website. This is going to be a long path for employers and employees, a path of uncertainty. But one thing we can be certain of is that if we all work together, we can get the economy going again. Thank you for watching. Our employment team at 9 St John Street Chambers are able to assist you remotely, and many of us are direct access qualified, which means that we can provide advice directly to members of the public. Please keep well, and again, thank you for taking the time to watch today.